Welcome to the Market Mystics podcast, where we discuss what's happening in the cryptosphere and trading on earth as it is in heaven. Buckle up and huddle on while we dive in and get weird. Here are your hosts, Joshua and Kim. We've been a bit out of pocket in the past couple of weeks, but we do have a bonus episode for you from our time in South Africa. We're joined by Francois as we talk about our origin story in relationship with one another, crypto, and more. Enjoy.
It had to have been, it was in probably late 2020. I had known Francois from a couple years before then, and we had connected over all kinds of things. And finally it came out that we had this common kind of calling and interest in some cryptocurrency things, but also in a shifting financial system. Mm-hmm. And so we were kind of growing that a bit, kind of, I don't know you say spitballing, but there were a lot of ideas and concepts that were being bounced back and forth.
Yeah, I think we got lucky with the lockdown, that you guys got stuck for an extra couple of, almost weeks?
It felt like weeks, yeah.
It was not the worst place to get stuck.
No.
But I think it allowed us to spend the quality time that we needed to actually forge the relationship we would have at the end of the day, which would allow you guys to come over. Because I didn't think the original thought was you were going to come over and we're going to discuss financial stuff. I think it was like we're coming over anyway for a conference, and we might as well come ahead of time. I think it was that precursor there just landed a relationship which just naturally flowed into what we were going to talk about anyway. Because I didn't have any, I was just like, come. Because it was basically the rest was the theme at the end of the day. That needed to be discovered. We've been kind of drawn into it through Father's royal con, like Emil would say. And then we just forged a good bond. And from there just naturally gravitate, because I don't know if we even spoke about crypto really when you visited the lodge way back then.
Not when we visited that, but in conversations since. I think there was a common denominator there. Like there's this underlying dissatisfaction with what was happening, and knowing that the Father was ready to start releasing something else and that we had a piece of it. I don't know that we knew what piece we had, but there was a piece and there was a commonality, which is also why Josh got drawn into the picture, because we had also connected this way, wound up making a company surrounding it. And it was constantly this conversation, you must talk to Francois, like you guys need to know each other. The language is the same, the heart is the same.
That's what I was thinking. There was just so much synchronicity between conversations we would have, and then she would say, oh, I'm having those same conversations with Francois, you need to meet Francois. And I mean, we made our company in November of 2020. And then the first trip that I was a part of here was March of 2021. And so not long after, and kind of the idea was just, we need to get together and meet and talk, because there's so much, we're speaking the same language. We're vibrating on the same frequency. We just need to get together and connect.
Absolutely. So we came in March of 2021.
So you quit your job so that you
We quit our jobs.
Yeah.
I had been in the corporate world for 15 years. The end of January was when I left that. Josh is a bit more extreme.
Yeah. I quit my job and got on an airplane the same day. So
yes. So we came, and it was such an interesting thing. It was great to come and reconnect, obviously, because there's always this heart connection, the spirit connection. Obviously, we were talking some, but it was just through voice message. Like, we didn't chat on the phone.
Yeah, me leaving you 20 minutes worth of voice messages.
That did happen.
I still remember some of them, being in the kitchen cooking. And so this was, Melise was pregnant at that stage. And so I would be covering a lot of, we were moving. So I was packing. And it was just like, I would start on a topic and I'm like, man, we really need to sit down and have some coffee, because as soon as I look up and see it's 20 minutes gone past, I'm like, hey, good luck with this.
I know. I remember getting those, and there's so much in it. I'm like, I should have taken notes while I was listening to this, because I can't even respond to everything. Anyway, so we came, and honestly, stepping out of being in this work environment for the last 15 years, I mean, it was really essentially since I left university, since I left college, I was working. But I remember stepping out and thinking, okay, we'll get there, we'll get acclimated, we'll have our first night's rest. The next day, we'll hit the ground running, see what the Father wants for us. And I can put myself back in the place, like we were sitting out on the deck having watermelon and coffee, and it's like, okay, Lord, what do you want? What do you want us to do? And him telling us to rest. And it was
difficult.
It was very difficult. And there was such resistance.
Contrary to belief.
Right. From my body and my soul going, this is not what I thought we were doing. But it was constant. And it was, I mean, we're from the US. We flew halfway across the world for the Lord to get us into a place where we could accept,
ready to be intentional,
being in rest. And
so that's normally how we function,
right?
And we were serious about it because we knew the weight that was on it,
right?
And we were going to be intentional, and then Father was like, you need to be intentional about rest. And it actually, that opened up, I think, the door. Otherwise we would have not landed anything that we are walking in today.
That's true.
And we really started forging that. But it was easy to forge rest by yourself. I was pretty proficient at that. But now partnering with people and really doing it from a kind of a community perspective was kind of the game changer, because it really challenged me there. Because when I was managing the lodge, it was easy for me to stay in rest, and because my staff just followed my lead, they would also just get in there. But now you both have a very strong passion and calling on your lives. And so it's now a partnership once again. And it's like what you said, this is not us being obedient to Father, it's about partnering with him. And it's a different ballgame.
It is different.
Being in rest just through obedience is a completely different ballgame, because you just follow orders.
Right.
But you're not really maturing as a son. You're not really thinking for yourself. You're not getting out of the box, which is what we want to do. Really, we need to be innovative in a completely different way. And the only way to access that in its true abundant worth is to challenge each other to step into rest.
Absolutely.
There is no recipe for that, like we found. Father was like, have a good time.
I mean, it was, like Kim said, it was a bit extreme for us, because we came here with the mindset of we're gonna step right into this new thing that Father has. We're gonna quit our jobs. We're gonna step into this new thing, and it's just instantly gonna be, bam, we're moving. And instead, there needed to be this foundation laid so that we could build it correctly. And it didn't even stop after the month that we were here. I mean, we've spent now over a year in America, in our own lives, learning what that looks like in our day-to-day lives, and sometimes succeeding, sometimes not succeeding, and staying in rest. But just that foundation had to be so solid so that when we did finally land more of the information, we could build it correctly. And then this trip, we were able to come and step into kind of putting a little bit more pen to paper than we have before, like getting a little bit more vision, getting a little bit more clarity, making some moves, doing some things. And, that just wasn't part of the trip last year. And then, like Francois, you said, I don't think we were ready. I don't think it wasn't the right time then, even though it felt like there was this urgency to get together. Really, the urgency was there, and it wasn't wrong. It was just not exactly the way we envisioned it to be.
I think really it just wasn't our plan. So what really had to happen, just like both of you have said, the foundation had to be laid. there was a deprogramming and a reprogramming that really needed to happen of how we function, right? Yeah. Because again, at least for me, I came out of this very go, striving kind of structure where it is all about busyness. If you're not busy, you're not doing something. And really, that time was so precious because it took us out of that, like this culture that had been built around us, and we just stepped right into this. Really, it's taking us back to origin. How were we made to be? We were created to function this way, and we were kind of put in the fire, like very quickly. It's like, okay, now do it. And then it had to be nurtured, but the relationships were nurtured and they were forged, and character, honestly.
Yeah. And I think if we look at the big picture now, which we know, we've joked about it being chaos babies, being comfortable in the times that the rest of the world is panicking, and it's like we get drawn to that. And I think the big thing, which is part of the Royal Con, is that Father needed to rehabilitate us from finding our worth in being busy to finding our worth being in partnership with Him.
Absolutely.
And so we were definitely thinking that we are going to only make this thing see the light of day by being busy.
Right.
Which was not going to be the case. And thinking at the big picture, if we go into a great chaos state, and we are still focused on being busy, we would also be drawn into that chaos. Our identity would absolutely be drawn into that. And by being in rest, you just kind of have the opportunity to step back and go, okay, Father, what is the ideal partnership momentum that needs to be forged here?
Yes.
And so that is a complete mind shift, and that's the kind of the rehabilitation. We know we're building foundation, but you can't always see towards what are you building, because the layers up is not always that obvious. Right. And so that gets me excited to see that we've actually, a year later, I think that's kind of part of the gift that Father's given us. It took you guys a long time to get kind of approval in a sense. That made it easy to come decide within the scope of rest, and that we connected now, we could see a tremendous amount of growth. And stability that's been forged within this. And it's not like it's less of a chaotic state now, it's probably even more so. But we find ourselves having quality conversations, not being pulled out of rest, and really uprooting anything that is still a trigger in that space.
Right.
And so we're building a massive project, and it can't be, like you said, Joshua, we weren't ready. We know that for a fact. We might have thought, but there is so much else in depth. The concrete, maybe the foundation was laid, and we really started seeing the fruit coming of the character, but it wasn't solid yet. You would step in that foundation, it would still be wet concrete. And so we need to be sure, when is the foundation actually a foundation? When it quacks like a duck, it also needs to walk like a duck. Can't just have quackers running around. So, yeah, no, I'm excited for what the future holds with this.
Absolutely.
I think we've all gotten this. We've talked about our passion being landing a new financial system, and we've talked about the weight of it and the foundation of it. And when you really step back and look at it from a macro point of view, it is a very weighty, large thing that we're looking at. It isn't, hey, we're going to come in here and we're just going to give you a new way to pay for something. We want to restructure the way that people look at their finances, the way that they approach their community, the way they run business, so that it accurately represents just a higher way of doing life. Just loving your community, loving your people, and operating that way.
So I think a good question to just maybe ask is, why did we even get to that place? That's the thought process, that is the passion. How did we get from just being in a corporate setup, which was okay. We were doing well. I was doing pretty good, but I was getting tired. And like we always say, the mother of all invention is necessity. And so if you're slowly dying on the inside, there must be something better. We know the promises, reveals everything else that is life, and that's what we're after. And so I think it's probably a question that we should address. How did we go from just being corporate and get pushed out of that quite comfortable, predictable bubble into what we are forging now, which is not a predictable bubble, and it's fairly uncomfortable. Uncomfortable.
Sure.
And what's the benefit beyond us? Because we're not doing it for ourselves.
Right. I think for me, very simply, I could put it into the statement that what I was drawn out of was working for money and drawn into having money work for me. And it's a quality of life statement, honestly. So I'm not spending my life working because my life is not actually a currency. You know what I mean? And it's a mindset shift. It really is. But it's getting back into abundant life and using things as tools to help with that abundance, as opposed to being the tool and spending your life for everything else. Yeah.
One of the phrases that was brought up last year on more than one occasion was, are you spending your time, your skills, your resources to build somebody else's vision, to help further their destiny? You know, are you trading what has been given to you to steward? Are you trading that for a paycheck? Or are you actually using those things for your to achieve your destiny? And it's not, I don't want to say that employment is wrong, because it's very possible that your skills and resources line up with somebody else's skills and resources, and you can come together in partnership and work together. And while you're building their dream, you're also building your dream as well. Like, that happens all the time. There's nothing wrong with that. But often we find ourselves in positions where we are only trying to get finances so we can pay bills and eat, and we're not actually operating at our fullest capacity because we're just trying to get a paycheck. And so, you know, in a lot of times in the corporate world, you are choosing some of those jobs because the paycheck is nice. It's a large paycheck, and so you're making good money, even though you're not doing anything that is actually like causing your soul to thrive, because it's not fulfilling. Yeah. And that's one of the biggest things for me was, you know, I had a good job. I enjoyed where I worked. I had wonderful bosses and opportunities, but I knew that what I was doing in there, even though it may have been building a foundation and given me skills that I need, it wasn't my ultimate goal. It wasn't where I needed to be. And so coming here and the foundations we've laid, what we're looking at doing is just taking a step and saying, okay, I've gained the skills that I need from the corporate world. I understand banking and financing and legal and all the things that I learned from that position. And now I can implement that into this next thing. And, you know, it's not chasing a paycheck, because all of our desire is actually so community driven that, you know, we don't want to hold all of anything we're creating. We want to pour it into other people. And it's just that opportunity to really pursue something fulfilling, something that has been put heavy on your heart.
I think that for me was the trigger, the whole fulfillment issue. And so I got frustrated at a young age, actually. I was frustrated with the system, schooling system, all of that. And so that really pushed me into a direction looking for answers that are fulfilling. And it's probably just the way I'm wired. And I'm not for any moment ungrateful for what I experienced. It really helped me become the person that I am today, and the skill sets and all of that. So I'm grateful for all the journeys and the experiences that I've had. But at the end of the day, I was also looking at other people. They were not being fulfilled.
Right.
And so the currency was leveraged in the wrong direction. And so people were leveraged into death, basically. We were seeing people getting sick, stressed out, burned out, panic attacks. And you're just like, this can't be the answer. And so the rest of the people just fight for survival. I was lucky enough to be able to look beyond that. I was comfortable enough to be able to ask those questions, to still kind of have an innovative side within me. But I think the passion for that is just so tremendous. You can never kind of dull that down within me.
Sure.
And so that started pushing me in the direction to take bold steps, to be brave in essence, to step out of the old system and to ask questions towards what is a better answer, not only for myself, but for other people. And that's where the love got cultivated to really step into how can we do this for community. I know we always talk about building community, living together in a way that is healthy, and that's complicated. We've tried that. We've seen it built. We've seen it kind of fail in a kind of unfulfilling way. You're just like still asking questions. And that's where we got into the systems that we were looking at, blockchain, saying this is a governance tool that can help answer the kind of the failure questions that we had, and bypass the immaturity of where people are at. Because immaturity does not necessarily equal people's callings or mandates.
Right.
Immaturity is just kind of a state of being, and it limits the fulfillment of kind of the drive. The passion is there, but it limits the fruit that sits behind that passion. And so using a tool and building using what exists and just making it more efficient in a way. Right. Allowing people to become who they're called to be, because we know if you become a better person, it makes life immediately better for myself. And so it's just the community benefits, everybody benefits. Yeah. And so it's a mutual investment. And so obviously I'm passionate about it. Is it obvious? But that for me is just like, now we're talking. Right. Now the currency becomes joy and having fun and living life, where people are not, their life is not stolen away from their families and their children. People don't grow up not knowing their parents and just knowing tutors and schooling systems. And so it is about really creating a healthy environment in a sustainable way. But how many people have tried to do this? Infinite. We've got so many political names for these type of things, but it's about putting the power back in the community's hands and personal individuals' hands. And that's kind of the shift, I think, that we've kind of just identified. It's raising fathers, not just more employees, allowing people to not leverage their whole life into somebody else's calling, but allowing them to, through the system that is there, mature into their own calling and then graduate from there. And so that's why we say the employee system is not a bad thing. For some, it might be a lifetime career and it fits their calling and profile perfectly. And for others, it's a stepping stone, a tutorship to get into what they need to do to benefit the community in the long run. Because if Elon Musk just stayed an employee, the world would have been a poorer place. It would have lost out on something insane. And so we want to have the next president come through the system and go like, oh man, I benefited from it. I would have never had an opportunity to do this if it wasn't just for a group of people giving me a lifeline. And so I think that's the driving force behind this. We saw beyond ourselves. We realized even if we can't do this by ourselves, there's no way. Right. It's the community for the community.
That's exactly what it is. We've talked about this over and over again. The essence of this is, it is freedom, it is abundance, and it is unity.
Yeah.
Right? It isn't about one person being amplified. Like, we want to find fulfillment, but we also want the fulfillment for everyone else. Like, this isn't let me hold this for myself. That's not what it is. This really is about everyone finding the abundance, finding the freedom, finding the unity. Yeah.
There's so much joy in seeing somebody just kind of become who they were called to be.
Exactly.
Why do we watch the Olympics? It is just absolutely that. It's just people becoming more than themselves and drawing a whole country community in to celebrate that whole thing. And so I think the essence behind it is stop judging things into kind of destruction, but start celebrating things into life and really start bringing in the good news, changing the narrative, celebrating because humanity is inherently good. We all know that. It just takes a couple of bad moments and people go onto that narrative for a long time. Right. But if we can really just start celebrating those people, those projects, those moments, and amplify that calls that person, that community into something that they know they are destined for, but it gives them hope. And we know how strong hope is. And so it's giving a lifeline. It's a rope. It's we spoke earlier, Jason and myself, and we were just like, it's a lot easier to respond to an invitation than pushing against something. And so it's a lot easier to grab onto a rope and be tugged or pulled than trying to push a rope and trying to do something productive. A rope just doesn't function like that.
Right.
And so we need to stop doing that. We need to stop using a system which it's not designed for. Right. And start using it for what it is, and that's mankind.
Yeah.
3 strands. That's what a rope is.
Good.
Yeah, exciting stuff. I think we should probably cheers on the fact that we are sitting here a year later going like, yeah, man, we made it here. And we covered a lot in the last couple of days.
That's true.
This thing is well and alive. We conceived it a year ago in partnership, and I think the birthing process is in progress. It's not even
well
on its
underway.
way. Yeah.
Yes.
So, on many more.
Yes.
Thank you for listening. Join us every Monday and Thursday as we discuss trading on earth as it is in heaven. If you want to connect further, follow us on social media at market.mystics for Instagram and TikTok, and search for Market Mystics on YouTube and Facebook. If you still need more, follow the link on Facebook to book a coaching appointment. Until next time, see ya.